Here we go. Okay. Just making sure, yeah. All right, so everybody can turn off their cameras now. Well, except for me, I guess. I'll show. All right. So, welcome everybody to the Flux exhibition. It's been a long time in the making, at least for most of us. So, this evening is basically just going to be something of an opening, the closest that we can have in the online world. So, what we're going to have tonight is we're going to have a few opening statements. We're going to have land acknowledgement. We're going to have some awards given out, and we're going to have a couple artist talks as well. So I'll just quickly run through a basic agenda for everybody who's watching in case they want to know kind of the rundown of everything. So the first thing we're going to start off with is a territorial acknowledgement, which will be read by Shannon. We're going to also have a solidarity statement for Asian violence in Canada and the Western world, basically. We're also going to do some acknowledgements and thank yous for people who helped us basically get to this point, get to the point where we can be graduating, and having our show, which is great. And then we're going to have a few opening remarks and kind of professor remarks, which will be featuring Monica, Tara, and Lois. And then we're going to have a few artist talks from Shannon, Kate, David, Dana, and myself. Following that is going to be the Curator's Award, which will be given by Ivan. We're going to then have a quick toast. And finally, we're going to have a Q&A period. So the final Q&A period is open to anyone. Obviously, if you have a question, you can ask it in the YouTube. But if you're on the Zoom call, you can also ask it on the Zoom call. But you can ask any artist any question. So the the website has been live now for most of the day, but if you want to go and check out the art while we're streaming and find some questions to ask, that'd be awesome. The website is uwflux.com. So you can go there and check out the exhibition and everybody's work so far. So I think what we're going to start with, like I said, is the territorial acknowledgement, which is going to be read by Shannon. So Shannon, do you want to go through our territorial acknowledgement, please?
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome again from myself and everybody. My name is Shannon, and you can use she, her pronouns for any questions or comments. Just drop them in the comments kind of as we go or at the end, just anytime you want. And so I'm really going to be acknowledging the territory and just kind of what allyship calls for and asks from us, especially, in a time of COVID, of how can we connect and how can we reach out and support each other. As young artists, we really want to recognize the importance of understanding the context of the land and sort of the conditions that are worsening ecologically and socially for so many people in Canada. And our acknowledgement of the territory really has to include recognition of the earth, of the water, and of everybody who is sustaining life here on Mother Earth, Turtle Island. Upon arriving in Canada, European settlers began enacting violence towards Métis, Inuit, and First Nations, and who had lived peacefully here before. And I was going to, keep my acknowledgement within Canada's borders. And like tonight, I'm streaming from my childhood home, which is not far from UW and is situated within the 6 miles of land on either side of the Grand River. And this land was promised to the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Neutral Peoples, which are each nations among us who are spiritually and culturally unique from one another, but are all deeply connected to the land and its spirit. The foundation of the Canadian government and its constitution was developed without consultation of traditional Indigenous knowledge keepers, and we've instead opted for colonial healthcare and policing and judicial systems that aren't working for many Canadians and are causing harm. So it's our job to acknowledge that and start to look at new ways of building that won't lead us down the same path. I would like to credit the Indigenous Student Center here at Waterloo for their resilience and contributions they've made to changing UW. My appreciation specifically goes to Lori Campbell, who is an Indigenous Cree, and Métis woman, and my advisor, my prof this term. I also would like to acknowledge our TA, Sydney Hannock, who their course structure and content has really emphasized for me the relevance of engaging socially and politically with issues that face Indigenous peoples across Canada as a white settler. Our allyship can be shown through supporting the land back camps. There's one in Victoria Park who are very active on social media and within our community and really can help you situate our sense of self and place here. They're calling for changes. The bureaucratic paperwork and rental charges that Indigenous communities have to pay in order to gather in public spaces needs to end. And you can visit their website, landback.com, for more information. And then also, to be an ally, you can read public inquiries, investigations into what's going on. But in mentioning that, I have to mention that the inquiries, how much can they help prevent violence and discrimination? We have to ask who's reading them, who are we electing. That's what will change the inquiries, not just the inquiries themselves. And this comes up as we witness Colton Boushie's case publicly. He was a 22-year-old Cree Red Pheasant First Nations kid who was killed in 2018. Our class with Lord Campbell has been kind of following the case, and we've reviewed the report, which concluded that the initial response to Colton's murder was appropriate, but the case was mishandled since the initial calls, and the Canadian news networks have weaponized language against Colton's name, saying that he had died in a property crime, which is false. When someone is killed, we have to say that they were killed because it feels different, and it's important to recognize the difference. And the report also, it's important, determined that the treatment of Colton's mother, Debbie Baptiste, was hostile by the police and was racially motivated, and she was discriminated against. I think it's worth mentioning during my territorial land acknowledgement that changes need to happen in our own minds, as well as just, through our acknowledgement of the land when we start events like this. Thank you. I'll be passing it back to Baz from here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shannon. That was really, really wonderful, really in-depth. And in the same vein, I think we also wanted to make sure that we were sending a message of solidarity as well, like not only to the Indigenous community, but also to the Asian community, which are at this point facing more violence than they have in recent years anyway. Not that it's ever been perfect. But we also wanted to read a quick message of solidarity to the Asian community, and David is going to be the one to do that for us. So David, if you could read your message for us, that'd be wonderful.
Thanks, Baz. My name is David, and my pronouns are he and him. We, the class of 2021, along with the University of Waterloo community and many others across Canada, express our condolences to the victims of the events that have unfolded in the past year. The global COVID-19 pandemic originated from China has led to multiple acts of racism against the Asian community. Recently, a horrific shooting in Atlanta, Georgia, has led to the death of 8 victims, 6 of which were Asian women. Their names are Tan Xiaojia, Delana Yan, Paul Andre Miko, Fang Daoyo, Yong A.U., Kim Hyun Jung, Park Soon Jung, Kim Soon Cha. There have been over 3,800 cases of assault and abuse targeted towards the Asian community, the majority of being women, since the beginning of the pandemic. We as a community support equal treatment of all people, regardless of races, gender, including the Black, Hispanic, Latinx, Native American, Indigenous, LGBTQIA+, and the Asian community. We support all the victims of oppression, abuse, hate, exploitation, and violence. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of these tragic events that occurred in the past year. We hope that with our combined efforts as a global community to work towards a society that accepts people of all races, cultures, genders, and abilities. A society that is free of of racism and discrimination. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. That was really, really wonderful, very heartfelt. And thank you again also for mentioning not only just the Asian community, but yeah, so many other marginalized communities that always need our support at all times, basically. So, quickly, we also wanted to give a few thank yous as well to people who have supported us to get, again, to this point that we can be graduating and having a show of our own, which is very, very exciting. Some of the professors and staff who have helped us get to this point, Lois Anderson, Tara Cooper, Sharon Dahmer, Jean Stevenson, Brett Roberts, Ivan Jurakic. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I should have asked you how to pronounce it prior to starting. And of course, like so many of the professors that helped us get to this point. There are so many that we probably can't even name because each of us took such different paths to get to here. So there's so many names, but all the professors who we ever attended a class with, we wanted to thank as well. There's also some technical staff, Adam Glover, Rick Nixon, Timothy Walker, Laura Leslie. Thank you guys so much for all your help with the technical side of things. We also wanted to thank the caretakers of the ECH building, who are Zofia and Robert. And some other important people as well, Natalie Hunter, Sepida Dashti, who was so kind to give a great donation to our GoFundMe account. We also obviously want to thank the University of Waterloo itself and all of our GoFundMe donors for funding our exhibition. We also wanted to quickly thank as well the graduate students who helped support us. We did a lot of critiques with the graduate students, which have been very helpful, and I'm sure all the other students would agree with that. Amber, Ashley, Carrie, Jacob, Julie, Jordan, Carice, Maria, Raquel, Sarah G, and Sarah P, to bring it back to public school, right? Thank you all so much for your critiques and your feedback. They've been really, really helpful. And the last thank you we wanted to give was to the Arts Endowment Fund, which also gave us a fair portion of money to allow us basically to put new materials and stuff into ECH, but also to fund our actual show. And Shannon was kind of a point of contact to make sure that was getting done. So she wanted to quickly give a thank you. And on top of that, we also have a draw for 6 Adobe Creative Cloud licenses that is funded by the Arts Endowment Fund. So she wanted to do that draw here while we're live because we thought it would be fun that way. So Shannon, do you wanna take it away there?
Yeah, so the Arts Endowment Fund I realize now was something that was encouraged, I think, for all students every year, and until this year, it wasn't something that, I pursued. And then once I looked at the page and realized, what we had was something they would probably be interested in, I decided to reach out and write a proposal. And luckily, I had Lois to kind of fix it up for me because it was my first experience with this kind of grant writing or proposal writing in general. So it was a great experience. And I got lots of help on the way. So I'm excited to be able to share some of the rewards. We got some great new lighting equipment for students to kind of work from home in the future if we need be. And some different types of equipment that's gonna help with different. Our students really, I guess, this term started working more promotional content, self content. Creating our own websites, creating our own content. And so I wanted to support, next year's class in also doing that because we realized how important it was to get started. So hopefully these names drawn will be 6 students that will get our generously donated Photoshop Creative Cloud accounts for 16 months, paid for by the Arts Endowment Fund generously. So let's see. I'm picking them out of this little sack, a sneak peek at some of the art you'll see on the website. Lupita will be getting her subscription paid for. And Katie will get her subscription paid for. And Baz, their subscription will be paid for. Kate is on the list, so that's 4 names. I wish there was someone else here to pick a name for me, but Shelby, your name is drawn. You'll get yours paid for. One more.
Oh,
Shannon!
Awesome! Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, just again another thank you, and I know each of the students drawn will be really excited about this, and the other equipment that we've received is going to help years and years of students to come, so very exciting.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Shannon. And yeah, congratulations to everybody who got that. And yeah, thank you again to the Arts Endowment Fund because, like I said, they provided so much materials and again, so much stuff that's going to help people not only now and helping us in our exhibition, but also obviously in the future. Hopefully, we won't need too much work from home stuff in the future, but it's always good to have, just in case. All right, so now we're gonna go into our, I guess, opening statements, even though we've been talking now for like 20 minutes. So the first person that I wanted to introduce was Monica, and yeah, Monica, do you want to give your opening statement to the exhibition?
Thank you so much, Baz. Good evening, everyone. This is a remarkable opportunity to come together, especially in this way, and celebrate creativity and passion. When I was first asked to say a few words, my initial thought was, what should I say? I don't really know these students, and I don't want to seem performative in any way. And then I realized that while I only have met some of you virtually, I do indeed know quite a lot about who you are and what inspires you. You are strong, brilliant, resilient, and driven. The past year has been challenging, disheartening, and confusing to say the least. You may already know this, but I found it telling that for the first time ever, the Oxford English Dictionary chose not to select a word of the year to represent 2020. There were simply too many new phrases to properly capture the year that was. Elbow bumping, Zoom ready, social distancing, and the dreaded "you're muted" have become part of our everyday speech. But there's also another word that emerged in 2020, reckoning. 2020 was the year that made us look hard and intentionally at issues of race, equity, and inclusion, and it exposed to all of us just how much remains to be done and how essential it is that we all play a part in setting a path forward. It's sometimes difficult to know where to begin or to see how we can possibly make a difference. But then there's you, all of you. I've been following your Instagram posts and have read up on your work and your passions, and you've left me humbled, awestruck, and inspired. I love the word that you have chosen for this exhibit, flux. Constantly moving, constantly shifting, looking for ways to change the now and improve our tomorrow. It's a poetic choice to represent your strength and courage to keep on going and to keep looking for ways to express yourselves. In various and beautiful styles, you explore issues surrounding cultural identity, identity construction, issues of belonging, memory and nostalgia, social perceptions of gender, and the fluidity of gender identity itself. To be honest, I've also studied many of these issues, but in literature and from centuries long ago. And yet you've connected me to your passions and have invited me to look at these questions through your eyes. In your work, you've offered us examples of courage and creativity, strength and solidarity, and connection even in isolation. Thank you for showing us that we each have a choice in how we respond to the world around us and for letting us all benefit from your brilliance. Congratulations on pulling all of this together, and thanks for sharing this moment with all of us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was so wonderful. And yeah, thank you again also for mentioning why we chose the name. I should have started with that. But yeah, Flux, yeah, it really represents, yeah, exactly everything that we were hoping um, to capture, I guess, with this exhibition. Because yeah, so many of us were pulled out of our comfort zone in the last year. Not only just as us as students, obviously, but people who are also looking at the exhibition. So yeah, we just wanted to really capture that fluidity and the ability to shift and change and still succeed. So yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. That's wonderful. And now we're gonna have Tara speak, and I think she also has a little video for us to watch. So Tara, do you wanna show us your video?
Yep. So first of all, I just like to. I'm so delighted to be here, and I've recorded a video because, well, I wanted to do something kind of special, but also like I'm getting choked up, so the pre-recording is maybe a benefit here. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Terry Cooper, and I had the pleasure of teaching this group of students in the fall. As the kind of precursor to this term. So, without further ado, I am just going to play my video. Share screen. Now, you'd think I'd be used to this since I've been navigating this since the fall. So, let's hope it plays in real time, but we'll see. Last fall, we kicked off this semester with 2 projects. Where are you at? And I wish I made that. And today, I'm full of gratitude for your willingness to get on board that virtual train in September. I appreciate your blind faith in the Fine Arts Department and in me as your instructor. And I appreciate your ability to take all of the lemons of 2020 and 2021 and make collective lemonade. A drink that quenched my thirst, reminding me how strong the creative spirit is, how it can be a lifeline that gives voice to what's unsaid, how it allows us to feel all the feels, from sorrow, anger, and despair, right through to joy, and how it can bring us together as a community, even in a virtual world. So thank you for showing up to all those Friday meetups, to our 15-minute one-on-ones, to every discussion board and breakout room. Thank you for your willingness to try so many new things this year, from Zoom to recording and editing video and sound, weaving, digital drawing, and so many other things. I also want to thank all of the behind-the-scenes people that made today possible. People like Brett, Sharon, Monica, Jean, Laura, Rick, Adam, and Tim. But also to a bunch of people that I've never met. To the moms and dads who let you transform the basement, spare room, and garage into temporary studios, the friends and roommates who offered to be your models, the people who let you borrow their cars and chauffeured you to get supplies and equipment, as well as those that offered words of encouragement and kindness, so that you could face another day. Like them, I believe in you, and I believe in your futures. And I believe that what we do as cultural workers is important. It's one of the things that makes life worth living. So one of my favorite things about the 4th year shows in UAG is the sheer energy of the openings. The gallery just buzzes with excitement. So as part of my opening remarks, I wanted to include something that embraces the celebration of today's event. And who better to assist me than Cool and the gang? So here's to the students that make up this year's 4th year thesis exhibition. Congratulations, one and all. You did it. I think I did. Am I back in?
Yeah, we can hear you and see you.
Okay, great. Hopefully that played, but anyways,
amazing. Thank you so much, Tara. I can't believe you danced for us on camera. I feel like that's like, we should get, some sort of circle the calendar moment to make sure that we remember that. And I hope it's up on Vimeo so we can also replay the moment for ourselves. All right, our last speaker for our little opening remarks is going to be Lois Anderson, who Tara was our professor last semester for the beginning of our 4th year, and Lois is our professor and has been our professor, I should say, for the past few months now, and helping us prepare this exhibition and preparing us, for our thesis shows and stuff like that. Our thesis in general, I should say. So, Lois, do you want to give us your opening remarks?
I actually think that we should just go back to Tara dancing. That was so much fun. Can you see me? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay. So most of you know that I'm a nervous speaker when it comes to public speaking. I'm okay in the classroom, but here we go. Flux means many things to many people. If I was to tell you there was a link between tonight's event and welding, you might be inclined to say, you're at the wrong opening. In welding, flux has a job to do. It melts and becomes liquid slag, covering the operation and protecting the molten metal. It makes the metal strong by shielding it from atmospheric gases. So you can see what I'm saying. Flux is an active agent. It's a collaborator. It helps with the flow, it shields and protects the metal. I tell the students that the art world can be a difficult place. It can be competitive and critical. So you may need some protection. You may need to be strong, and you may need some flux. I tell the students that the relationships that you develop in your undergraduate studies builds your community. You are each other's flux. During the year, we lived so much in the virtual world. You could say that we were, that swear word? Or you could say that we were fluxed, shielded, protected, together. I didn't say those swear words. Traditionally, the 4th year student studio functions like a house, communal living, including some potluck lunches and some sleepovers. I'm sorry, Adam. This year, the house was not a house, but yet maybe it was. Zoom acted as kitchen, bedroom, sofa lounge, gallery, and let's not forget the occasional cat, bird, and dog video bombing, where everyone lost interest in what the profs were saying. Beyond a doubt, it's the students that are the structural support. Without them, this house would certainly collapse. I can also say that they are the fire. They fuel the house with their creativity, passion, and desire. They give us purpose. They make us excited. They are active agents, and sometimes they melt our hearts. Each of these students has brought something of themselves to share with you. They made these pieces while worrying about the state of the world and the plight of others. Recent and not so recent events of racialized hatred has cut into them, and they carry sorrow and grief, even at this early age. They see art as a way to speak out about colonial violence, as a means to break down gender construction and barriers, to tell you about their identity, to let you into their hopes and into their fears. And they also practice self-care. They believe in the power of art to affect change and as a tool to prepare broken things. So you see, it all comes back to mending, to melting. It all comes back to the flux. I want to thank you, remarkable students, for being so remarkable. You've made this term amazing. You've worked so hard. You've recalibrated. I don't like that other word. What is it? And you've just given everything, your heart and your soul. So it's been my greatest pleasure to work with you, and I'm looking forward to our final crit. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lois. That was wonderful. And I said in the chat that I'm going to use Flux all the time now. It'll be like a Christmas story moment where it's like, I didn't say that F word. Said the other one. Exactly. We have we have our own slang going on now. All right. Well, those. Yeah.
I just have to say, if you ever want to be an MC, like a radio host, you got it.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm doing my best here. So, all right. So it looks like we're only at about half an hour, and we were going to take a bathroom break around now, but I think what we'll end up doing is we'll do 2 of the artist talks, and then we'll have a quick break in between the artist talks for everybody to take a little break. So what's going to happen coming up, just for those viewing, is we're going to run a few artist talks. So like I said, it's going to feature Shannon, Kate, David, Dana, and then myself. Each of us is going to talk for about 5 to 7 minutes just about the work, generally what we have in the exhibition, but it could be more broad than that. It could be about our, time at UW. It could be about anything. And then after each artist talk, we're going to have just a very brief Q&A for each of those artists. So while they're speaking, if you have any questions that you want to ask them, you can feel free to either ask it. If you're on the Zoom call, you can obviously ask it in the Zoom chat. But if you're watching live on YouTube, you could also just put it in the chat and we'll hopefully answer it. If it's not answered during this Q&A session, like I said, at the very end, there's going to be another Q&A session that is open to every single artist that's on here. So if somebody that you wanted to ask a question isn't speaking during the artist talk, you'll still have a chance to ask your question. You'll just have to wait till the end. Or if we didn't get to your question during the Q&A period for the artist talk, you're welcome to try and ask it again at the very end, and we'll hopefully get to it then as well. So I think, like I said, we're going to start with Shannon's artist talk. So Shannon, you're good with running your own slideshow, right?
I'm going to try.
Okay, perfect.
So that's the plan.
Yeah,
yes.
Fingers crossed. So yeah, Shannon, did you want to, you can start your, sharing your screen and start your artist talk whenever, and then whenever you're finished, we're going to do a little Q&A with you.
Didn't realize I was muted. There we go. Yeah, so we'll get started. This first screen, I'll be clicking through pretty quick or slow. We'll just see how the presentation's going. The first images you're seeing are of my family archive. My mom took pictures of everything as I was growing up. I just have such a robust album of photos, and so I flipped through them a lot to get my artworks going. This term, I had quite a bit of a focus on folk tales and kind of family stories and how we pass things down that way through our family members and things, which led me sort of to the history of where my mom's from, is Fogo Island, which is located on the north side of Newfoundland. It's a rural island that had some fame in the 1960s for a film series, which you can read a bit more about on the website if you look into Flux. I'm not going to get too deep into that part of the history in this talk, but this beach here is called Sandy Cove, and I spent a lot of time there as a kid. And as I grow up, you find out more about the places that you spent time in. And along this beach, there's a folk tale, and it's called The Turpin's Tale, and it kind of relates to my land acknowledgement and the research I've been doing for that stories and things, they change as we tell them. And folk tales are often from the white settler perspective. It's, comes with the territory of them. So the story goes that there was Michael Turpin, who was out on the beach, and an interaction started between Michael Turpin, another white settler, and Indigenous peoples on this land, the Beothuk. And the story goes there was, a chase down this beach, and eventually Turpin is caught, killed, captured, and the story continues, yes. But where I'm going with this is that the stories like this that I heard as a kid when I would be walking on the beach having fun, you see the poster, that interpretation changes our view of people. And basically, over time, these narratives build false narratives about whole groups of people. And so my work starts to engage with that through my family and my perspective. I lost my place in my notes, sorry.
It's all good. Take your time.
Thank you. I'm trying to rush through to make sure I get through it, but
It's
the
totally
first
okay.
slide is kind of the longest one.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's important to note that this story I'm telling about, it takes place in 1809, supposedly, which is only 20 years prior to the last Beothuk woman who died of tuberculosis. And that's kind of where the knowledge keeping for the Beothuk ends. And unfortunately, we don't know what's happened since there, where Beothuk people have gone, or the research is slowly coming out now. The remains of two Beothuk people have finally been returned to Canada in the last year, last January. So things are happening, and my work is just starting to engage with that. How do I go to the next slide? Sorry. There we go. In terms of my visual culture upbringing and how that informs my work, I have grandparents located in Alberta and in Newfoundland. So spending time in both of those places growing up really informed how I make work and how I engage with artwork. You can kind of see the differences here in landscape and how that maybe informs my work quite a bit. And just how connected I am to my family members, although they're extremely far away, how much that has impacted my life and my artwork. So this first piece is from 2017 I made in high school, and I just wanted to quickly show it here because it starts to go into some of the themes that my most recent work is diving into. The sculpture, I don't really remember everything that went into it, but I remember my mind was really concerned with a couple specific things, which was my family ties and generational cycles. So the one piece of white material was me, and the other on the other side, in the other part of the cycle, was my family and my history. And I was concerned with sustainability, so this was from my own clothing and an old painting that I ripped up and made this work. In terms of this course, this is where the work that I started with at the beginning of the term with Tara. Some digital stuff that had to do with archive, again, is a big interest for me. So the images I took off of Fogo Island Facebook group, old photos of Fogo Island, where I connected with people, and kind of, they're the same places that I grew up around, but with different faces and different stories in them. So it was just my way of kind of diving into this place outside of my own experiences with it. I did some more of that work, really looking into archival collections from different sources. So these are some sketchbook pages that I made that were kind of samples, I guess. I was playing around with texture and form and material. So I looked at nature and these samples that were in the Smithsonian archive that Tara had informed me about after she saw kind of where I was going with my research. And it really started to send me in another direction again. These next images are drawings I made while responding to the Fogo process, which is that series of videos I mentioned earlier. So yeah, I would watch them, and once again, they were places that I had been, that I have pictures of many of my relatives there, and then I'm just re-engaging with them with new perspective, new eyes that I gained, through my University of Waterloo education, but also just with age and time in COVID, it's really changed how I see myself and this place that I'm so connected to. So that gets us to the work that's in Flux. This is a still from one of the videos I produced with my mom, and I kind of started doing this crochet, which was kind of a concern of mine for a long time as a kid. I knitted a lot in secret. I crocheted many things, but never thought of it as something that I would take into where I was doing painting and things at school, drawing at school. So this most recent body of work, I guess, is me pushing that further and seeing what I can do with the crochet and what I can do with my sculptures that is outside of, what I traditionally think of as my crocheting a hat or my crocheting nieces and nephews, little hats and mittens and things. It's taking my hobby into something more meaningful for me. The next image is crawling. It's a digital work I made that I used a digital scanner to get the image of my sculptures. So it kind of, it was still archival in nature that I was scanning it and editing it and things like that, but in a different way than filming was. So that then brought me to my final work for the show, 7 Rotations, which is another video work that you can see on the site, but I have a still here. And the forms, I start with, I guess, an idea, right? This one from kind of something of the sea, something that I had seen before, but I didn't look up reference photos. It was from my memories. And by rotating it and engaging with it in video, it was kind of me questioning what its value is and its value to me, its value to other people, that sort of thing. And then I kind of wanted to introduce everybody to where my work's going now till the end of the term. Looking into craft and other material exploration that people in my family have done before, it led me to my great Nan Susie Brett, her work. I never would have considered her an artist, but then I started to reconsider what I considered art versus craft, and it made me understand that she is probably the most influential artist in my life through her quilting. So I wanted to share that, which is where my work is headed now. So these are a couple of the quilts, and I really wanted to get to the last one here. You can kind of see how they were passed down for births or weddings, and there was a lot that went into quilting for her, which, it was out of thrift, out of necessity. This is what I'm exploring. Why was she making them? How did she find out how to make them? That sort of stuff. And excuse me. The part of what I find so interesting about them is that you can see her hand and her stitching, but then you don't really know if it was only her that went into making them. I talked with my mom and my nanny, and I came to understand that she would often go to the ACW, Anglican Church Women Meetings, where people would gather and help each other on their quilts, help each other to create. And this sense of community out of craft is, I guess, starting to become an interest in my work, apart from just my own studio work. So that's kind of where it's headed now, and I wanted to share that to finish off.
That's really amazing, Shannon. Thank you so much for sharing, especially sometimes seeing hand-me-downs from other people is such an intimate thing. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And Tara actually said, in terms of the textiles, the ones that you've been working on, the ones in the exhibition, she says that the pale pink, the crochet baskets are beautiful, and the blue ones make her think of tides, which you mentioned. And I wanted to mention, throwing it back to that high school piece. Hello? What I did in high school comparatively to that? Are you kidding me? That's like quality work, and you're like doing that in high school. That's incredible. So just while we're waiting, actually Dana does have a question. So Dana wants to know, what do you find the biggest difference between craft as a hobby and craft as art, if you find a difference at all? Do you find one?
Yeah, I guess I find it in that when I was doing it for craft, I would look up YouTube videos. I would find, what is it called? Like templates and things to follow, because I didn't want to trust my intuition. I didn't want to trust my gut and just come up with my own designs. I wanted to, make a slipper how someone told me to make a slipper, and make a hat how someone told me to. So once you start to switch it into that art field like a lot of our artists are doing. I had that in my notes. I wanted to shout out Lupita and Jessica and Shelby's work, working with weaving and stitching and altering. I think we all have similar concerns of like, yeah, how are we going to push it in the future? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I wanted to mention too how glad I was that you brought up this concept of crafting as art as well, because it's this, you know, huge long line of people, especially women, who have their names are lost to history because and they've made these beautiful pieces, and it's just because it's seen as women's work, right? So gender plays a huge role in that as well. So it's so wonderful to see more people getting into crafting, weaving, quilting, all that, to bring it more into the art world as well. And I think it's also important to show those quilts because you can see there's art in there. Like there's so like you can tell there's like a really nice balance between color and texture. Like it's clear she knew what she was doing and she knew what looked good to the eye. You know what I mean? So we have one more question from Lois, and then anybody else who has a question, we can hopefully get back to it at the end in our second Q&A period. So Lois asks, when you take the vessels outside, what happens? Like, how do they change? How do they, you know, react to the outside environment?
Yeah, I didn't include any of those images, but I did do some testing with that. I have this blue window in my backyard that was working really well with one of the sculptures, where they were, instead of one vessel, they were a bunch of small ones. And then once they were lined up together and outdoors in a space where, yeah, you didn't know where it was a window, but you didn't know, yeah, it does change it. I also photographed them with some rocks out in like a little space of rocks, and yeah, it took it to a place, yeah, where was it craft, was it handmade, was it natural, where did it come from? It makes you ask different questions about them instantly. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Yeah. And again, if anybody wants to check out Shannon's work, she does have videos of her pieces up on the website. So either now or after the live, you're welcome to go check those out. They're really wonderful. Okay, so thank you so much, Shannon. If anybody else has questions for Shannon, like I said, at the very end, we're going to have an open Q&A period, so you can always wait and ask those questions then. So we're going to also do, I think, one more artist talk, and then we're going to take a little break. So I think Kate is next up for our artist talks, and I think Shannon's going to be running her presentation for her. So, Kate, if you want to turn your camera on and we can see your lovely face, and yeah, you can let us know what you want to tell us about your art.
Can everyone hear me okay on the Zoom call?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm sharing my screen right now, so let me know can you guys see that? Yeah?
Oh, you're doing yours? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, okay, cool, great. Okay. So I'm really excited to be here tonight, and it's been great hearing everyone speak so far. There's been really lovely speeches, and the territorial acknowledgement and solidarity statements were beautifully written. So in terms of my art, this past year I've been really interested in working with plants and the body, and specifically my body. And this summer, it looked like doing it through the contact photographic process of cyanotype. So basically, I would create my own emulsion, and I would coat surfaces like paper and bed sheets, and I would lie on the surfaces in the sun to capture impressions of my body, or I would put plant life in my parents' backyard when I was home for the summer on the surfaces, and it would capture their impressions along with me. And I also wrangled my roommates into doing this in the fall when I moved back in with them. Here's a pillow I just have in my room that just shows kind of a little bit of the process. And I sewed it into a little pillow, just leaves from our front yard. But what you're looking at here, for Christmas, my dad got me this contraption called a bio snacky. And as I was using it, I started to think about why I'm interested in working with plants and why I'm interested in basically hybridizing my body with plants or anthropomorphizing or personifying plants, because I started to go into this direction. So through this gift, I was able to grow beans and sprouts in my bedroom throughout the fall. And basically, the biosnacky is like, it's a plastic cylinder and it has 3 different layers, and it is a hole in each layer that allows for drainage through it. So it lets you water your seeds every day, take the drainage tray in the bottom, pour it out, and then keep recycling water through it. And I started to do this twice a day to grow seeds for myself. And this action became an act of care for myself because this past year I've experienced some health issues that have made me change my diet a lot and change the way I think about consumption and the way I interact with my environment in general. So growing these seeds in my bedroom, something that I could eat, like microgreens and sprouts, something good for my body, became this personal act of care. And it also, I realized it was kind of an act of care for the sprouts and the beans that I was growing, because I was curious about the environment they were in. I was curious about what would make them grow the best, what type of sunlight, how much water a day. I learned twice, and I started bringing this container into my room by my window, because it's the best spot in the attic that I live in that gets the most light. And I also started bringing the indoor plants that I keep in my attic in my bedroom and tucking them basically like on my bed behind me while I would work during the day, as this, again, I'm sort of personifying them through this act and assuming the care that they need to thrive from my own perspective, which is kind of interesting to think about. But what does it communicate, this act of care? But I started to think about care and in this basically cohabitation between me and my sprouts in my room and me and my plants and what that means. And I also realized I wanted to explore this care through my practice. So how can I use these sprouts? Let's see. Hopefully I can change my slide. Okay, there's going to be some. Okay, so here are 2 images of me using my sprouts. Basically what I did is I took some mung beans on the left image here, and I decided to start scanning my sprouts with my computer printer scanner. So I would open up the top of my scanner on my printer, and I would drag sprouts while I'm scanning them across the screen to capture basically a distorted dance of these sprouts. And on the right, you can see I used, I think, mung beans, garlic chive, and then a stem from a bouquet that my boyfriend had got me for Valentine's Day this year. So I started to use plant life in my immediate environment, and I just started producing. And I think that's us as students, that's what we're doing this year. We don't have access to the resources that we normally do, so we're just kind of frantically creating with everything in sight. And I sort of started to think of this relationship in the same way as my sprouts. So in my attic space, it's not the best growing conditions, but regardless, they're still growing. We as students and all of us in the world are still growing, and the trajectory and rate of that growth is dependent on our conditions. So we might be bending, we might be distorting, there might be overgrowth, there might be undergrowth, so maybe overproductivity, underproductivity, or overcare, undercare, but we're still growing. And I think this process of overgrowing my sprouts, which is something that I started to do, I started to push them past the point of when you're supposed to grow them for consumption. So the sprouts that I grow in that biosnacky, you're supposed to eat them after 3 to 7 days. And I started growing them for like 3 weeks. And I started to think about, in my art practice, what does that say about care in this time, And I'm still thinking about it. Yeah. And Okay, perfect. That worked. So I also realized I wanted to use these scans in an installation. So this installation space that you're looking at is the bedroom that I'm in. From that side, I cleared out like 2/3 of my bedroom to the other side of my wall to create this space so I could do a series of installation studies with the 2 scans that I just showed you. So these printed scans, I worked with Adam and Tim to get them printed out to fit my window so that my window could act as a light box when I hung them. I'll just show you these scans again, so it's kind of interesting. And Baz, let me know if I'm over time, just cut me off.
It's all good. Keep going.
Cool. So when I was doing these installations, I talked to Lois and I also talked to Natalie Hunter from our faculty about how they do installations and how Natalie installs her photographs, considering the architecture of spaces that she's in. So in this case, I used the hardware of my blinds to hang my scan off of in this light box, kind of makeshift light box. And then my other scan, I pressed it up against the wall and kind of tried to treat it as a sculptural object. And here are 2 details. I just got really curious about the light in my room with the scans. And then I started thinking about what can I do with those sprouts that I've been growing past the point they should be grown, I say, because I've started to pickle them in jars because I've been growing so many. So again, what does that conceptually speak to? I'm curious about. But I placed them all around my bed, along with my scans. And I was curious about what would happen when I physically entered the installation space. So it's kind of becoming this psychological space, speaking to my cohabitation with my plants. And these 2 images are from, I called this study etoliation. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's when succulents or plants, generally indoor plants, have to grow to get the sun's rays because they're not in proper lighting conditions. So it kind of speaks to things I'm thinking about. And then I just thought it'd be kind of fun to include these. These are from a performance I did for Bojana Vidakinic's performance art class last week. So I staged my installation space and I did this action of stretching in the space and kind of rolling around on my bed and putting the sprouts on my body. Yeah, if anyone has any questions now or at the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And that's it.
Amazing, Kate. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really like at the beginning how you were talking about, due to your health issues and stuff, you started exploring these kind of more natural, ways to eat and like things to put into your body, and this like connection between caring for a plant that especially indoor plants can be specific and very picky, and just our bodies and like how things can change over time and like just the smallest shift can affect us in a big way, right? So your work is always lovely, and the pictures of the installation are gorgeous. You did a wonderful job with those. Yeah, we do have a few questions, so I'll probably stick to about 2, but if anybody wants to ask it again, if it's not answered in this Q&A, we do have another one at the end. So Faith wants to know, what has been your favorite part of creating this art?
Oh, who was asking that?
Faith.
Oh, Faith.
Yeah.
My roommate, Faith.
Coming through with a softball. I love it. I'm just kidding. What's
my favorite part of creating it? It's been really hard this term to find out what I'm interested in about this process. So a lot of it has been just editing and refining my thoughts. So that's the hardest part. The most fun part is just creating and being physically in the installation space and messing around with like the intuitive process of it and rolling around like in this stage space with my sprouts. And also the scanning process with my computer printer scanner, because I'm with my printer and I'm just exploring the images that get generated when I drag objects across it. So it's really fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and there was also, I think Tara had just mentioned like that she loves the light, and she wondered how it would look as a stop motion as the sun is moving across the room as well, which would be very interesting, I think.
So cool.
Another question was actually from Natalie, who you shouted out during your talk. She wanted to know like what made you want to work with your sprouts in a digital way, like what, because they're so separate, right? Like you think of the natural world and you think of digitizing. So was there a point that you can remember that this connection was just like, I wonder what'll happen if I just stick them on a scanner? Like what was the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so I took Tara's printmaking classes for two different years, and I love the process of quickly creating images and experimenting with how to do that. And I learned that I love that in printmaking. And then in the fall, I took a Cora's photography class, and I started making scans of my body pressed against my flatbed, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an experiment. I was like, what will happen if I drag my scans or my sprouts across the scanner? And it was super fun, and I wanted to keep pushing what I could do with it.
Absolutely. I love those scans too because they remind me of like jellyfish and like other natural, you know what I mean? Like it's just lovely to see all these things kind of cohesively coming together, like the natural world in very different ways, making these beautiful pieces. Yeah, lovely. We have a lot of really wonderful comments about your work as well in the YouTube chat, so you should definitely read back because people are saying such lovely things. Yeah, so definitely read those comments afterwards. So yeah, thank you so much, Kate. I think what we'll do now is we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break, I think. So if everybody wants to go, use the bathroom, refill their coffees, their waters, whatever they need to do, we're gonna try and meet back here for 7:10, if possible. And we're gonna start right in with David's talk, if possible. And if we're running too much over time, I might just skip my talk. That's totally fine. So when we get back, we'll do David's talk. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, everybody? Thank you guys for being so patient and quiet. No, not quite. I have another hour or so, but we're just on a quick break. But thank you. You're welcome. Cooperate as much as we can. Yeah, you guys are like silent. It's crazy. I was waiting for Dolce and Ziggy to both start meowing and barking at the same time. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, just about another hour or so. This whole time I was saying that we're probably gonna run under, and now I'm like, oh no, if we run over, should be fine. So we have about a minute left. As people come back, if you just want to maybe do a little reaction or something, so I can see kind of how many people we got. Ooh, got some hearts. We got some thumbs up. Love it. Dana's giving me a full-on heart. Love that. Oh, we got a. Tara's the first one to give us a little. I don't actually know what that is. A little like confetti bomb, I guess. Oh, Emily's in with the confetti bomb. Awesome.
I feel like it's a party.
It is a party. You're right. You definitely killed it.
Party favors.
For sure. All right. So it's 7:10 now. So I think we're going to head into David's talk now, if David is back. Let me just double check. David, are you back? Awesome. Okay. And I think Shannon is running your share screen. Okay, so Shannon, whenever you're ready, you want to start up your share screen, and then David, yeah, whenever you're ready, you can start your artist talk for us. I think you're still muted, David, unless you have.
Is my screen sharing?
Yep, we can. Yeah, we can see your screen.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So, hey everyone. So, my body of works mostly delving into Asian culture, especially my own Vietnamese heritage, as well. I touch on family, death, language, and like domestic rituals throughout my bodies of work. And so, from what you see here, the first work that's on the left was what I first created in relation to my own culture in Lois's sculpture class, and it was one of the pivotal points in my art career in starting work in relation to questioning of who I am as a Vietnamese Canadian and where I feel truly from. And the one that's next to it is a work that I made in honor for my father. And so my work really flourished more when he was when he passed away not too long ago. And so it was one of the few works that I've created that is in honor of him, as well as basically got me thinking as to what my own like how my own like family, like my mom and dad's experience in being here, as well as basically their journey throughout the lifetime. Um, most of my work nowadays has been delving more into the prosthetics and body paints, and so I use colors as in psychology to really affect the human mind, as well as to the uncanny of the how I use the prosthetic. And so I also use text. So I'm just nervous and speaking just without a script. Um, most of my work is basically delving into my experience as well as my understanding of Vietnamese culture, as well as the experience that is generically experienced throughout different marginalized groups. And so I basically want to really showcase how my learning about my own father, as well as understanding as how they journey. I I'm kind of confusing myself a little bit. Sorry about that. Um, as like for this piece, sorry.
It's okay, David.
It's
You're
been
doing awesome.
it's been it was a wild experience doing my first like theatrical performance using my body as the canvas. It was mainly displaying my father experience within the medical and being here for however many years that my dad has been. Sorry, but and so it dawned on me to take on my father's own experience and basically giving him that agency of being able to show his feeling when most Asian parents doesn't really show them to most of us. And so I wanted to basically be able to display that through my body of work, um, as well as being part of the LGBTQ IA plus community. I made some bodies of work that I basically discuss about being queer within the within a Asian community, and how it's been a bit of a struggle in terms of basically feeling um, confined and basically unable to express myself. And so being able to express my own work through my own sexuality is something that I thought is very uncomfortable, taboo in like most parts. And so taking this big step was one of the most challenging. I think it's in the next slide that was my first work in relation to being part of the LGBT. And so it's one of the work that was not the best, um, but like it was one of the starting point in creating more works like this. Don't know what else I have in my slide, but like I've had a lot of works starting to like do more work of participation, and so allowing the viewers or like the participant to be able to express themselves in many ways that allows them to have agency and being able to describe their own experience, as well as being able to really express themselves. As in being in an Asian household, it's usually a lot harder to express oneself. That's what I've experienced, and I think a few of my other friends have. But I don't want to take away words that isn't that won't fit for others. And so I've been struggling with my body of works lately, where it's been kind of struggling to really delve into. I've worked a lot with really taking the experience and being able to subtly display them. And recently with the AAPI hate crimes, I've been taking the biggest leap I've ever had in doing an actual performance in relation to a political subject. And I want to thank both Lois and Boyana. They've both been really supportive and really helpful and insightful in these current time. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much how I want to cover with my artist talk.
That's amazing, David. I always love seeing your work. And I think I've said this before to you, but the way that you use color is just so beautiful. And all of the stills that you have for your, because a lot of these are videos, and all the stills that you take, they are artwork within themselves. And yeah, your color, I don't know how you do it. It's truly beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We do have a few questions. So Kate actually wanted to know, she says, you capture such beautiful personal experiences and are able to share them with others. Can you talk about how you use performance in your work and how you transitioned into using it? Because obviously you mentioned you had just kind of started into that a few years ago. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was kind of whacking. I always thought I would be doing sculptures and or other things. So it was a big step into the performance section. And basically it took a lot of research and understanding of how to effectively portray what I'm delving into. And so I usually try to carefully weigh out what's the perfect way of what's not really perfect, but the best ideal for the current project. And so there were cases that I thought performance might be the better option in ways of being able to really make the people uncomfortable, as well as basically really letting myself to understand who I am using my own skin or all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best part. It was very scary in my opinion, in most cases, and being able to be having that vulnerable point within my own career was the, I think, most invigorating most invigorating experience I've ever had. And to be honest, I thought I wouldn't enjoy it, but I really have. And I
That's
wanted to
wonderful.
be able to do more of this later on in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, your performances are always so wonderful, and yeah, like everybody's saying in the comments, just so vulnerable and yeah, deeply intimate. So you have a knack for it, so you should definitely continue in the future. Um, and Natalie Hunter has a question as well. That actually I was planning to ask similarly anyway, just in terms of your identity and your exploration of your identity. So she asks, do you find that lens-based media and photography really speaks to expressing your identity, and is it empowering for you?
I think it really is empowering for me, as well as how it portrays my own identity. It really gives me the chance to really show the people display what I am learning about myself, and it really gives me the freedom of doing what I really want. And I could basically make it look ethereal. I can make it look very dramatic, all that stuff. It really, I love the really versatile and very playful that you could do with photography lens based work. And even video, it has that very nice feeling. You don't feel like you're interacting with the audience in a certain way, but rather it's all really depends on the viewer's experience of how it is, and it can be either overwhelming, underwhelming, or it can hit you with so many different ways that I really love,
Mm.
and that's the best. That's the best feeling I love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Um, yeah, so I think if anybody has any other questions for David, we'll just hold off on those until the end. Like I said, we'll have a Q&A period for everyone, any artist that you want to talk to at the very end. So thank you so much, David, for sharing your work and for sharing your story with us. And I think we're going to move on to Dana next, if Dana's ready here.
Yes, hello.
Dana, are you doing your own share screen, or is Shannon doing that for you?
I can do it if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
You? Okay. All right. Just going to get this started. Okay, so first, hi everyone, my name is Dana Ferguson. I go by she, her pronouns, and I will start sharing this now. Can you see my screen, or did I mess something up?
No, we can see your screen. If you want to have your video on as well, you're welcome to. If you don't, that's totally fine too.
Oh, I didn't even realize that it stopped. Here we go. Okay. Oh, just kidding. That's the wrong button, isn't it? We don't want to do that. Nope, we don't want to do that.
It's all good. Take your time. Take your time.
I'm I'm not sure why it says science fair. Clearly, this is not a science fair. This is an art opening. However, alrighty. So I'm really interested in the evolution of thought and kind of how we got to where we are today and what we're creating today. So if it's all right with everyone, I will also talk a little bit about my roots and my past, just to give you a little background. So I definitely didn't want to put any paintings from when I was 14 on here because those are embarrassing. So while I talk about my past for a little bit, you can look at my works that I'm exhibiting now in Flux. This series is called Quarters of Consciousness. But yes, back to the beginning. When I was a kid, and still now, I think I've never been able to sit still. I've kind of been always talking, always thinking. My mind never really shuts off. So I think that is how I turned to art as a way to kind of put that energy into. And I was always drawing. I always would like to make people birthday cards instead of buying them a gift, save money. But so I was always like drawing things like that. We used to go on really long car rides, and I remember just like bringing like CD covers and stuff I would try to like sketch them out and recreate them. But I think for a long time, I was really scared to draw anything that was my own ideas. I think I was always just trying to draw something from the world, and I think for a long time I was scared to put my own ideas into the world because I didn't want people to, I don't know, maybe think they weren't good enough or say that, yeah, I think every artist feels that. So I think that was just my biggest struggle for me. So that begs the question, when does someone become an oh my goodness, when does someone become an artist? These are just some works that I've done leading up to this exhibition now. And when you think about it, is it when you pick up a pencil crayon when you're like 4 years old? Is it when you enroll in art school? Or is it some other time when you kind of realize things about yourself and start creating from your own head and things like that? And I think I definitely, even in first and second year, I didn't really think of myself as an artist. But I think the program at Waterloo is built out in such a lovely way that you really, in your third and fourth years, you begin to find yourself as an artist. And I think the first 2 years are really great for showing us kind of like the basics and things like that. But what I really loved is in upper years, I can't say enough about the profs and how they never told us what to create. They were just there to help us create to our best abilities and to kind of pull our ideas in different directions. So I just really, really appreciate and love the freedom that we were given by those profs, Lois, Tara. Like I just can't say enough because, you encouraging us to find our own thought processes has been so amazing. And that has kind of gotten me thinking about the idea of everyday inspiration. Before my third and fourth year, I always found that it was hard to find inspiration because I think I was looking for inspiration to tell me exactly what to do. And I think now I realize inspiration is more about how it changes your thought process and how it makes you think of things in different ways that maybe contribute to your final thought processes and things like that. So even things like songs I was listening to, poems I was reading, podcasts, I was really interested in the things that I was consuming while making the project that I made for Flux, because I think, like I said, like if it changes how you think, then it changes your art practice. And I think that's something I never really realized before. So yeah, this is just some stuff that I've done in my previous years. A lot of it was exploring mental health and identity. And I think what I've learned from these pieces on the top here versus what I'm making now is that just because you want to speak to something doesn't mean you have to make it the art so obviously about it. And I think the great thing about what we're all doing is that so many people can see your work and think different things about it, and that's what I wanted. So I really wanted to try to be less obvious in my work and take a more contemporary approach where some people might think different things. So that brings me to these paintings. As you see in this one, I did 12 paintings. I think the pandemic really led me to think about, obviously, the time I spent with myself and my own thoughts and how I can never really seem to turn those off. So I was thinking a lot about how, as humans, it's beautiful that we can think about all of the things that are constantly running through our heads. Like I look at my fish, and my fish isn't thinking that. Like, I just think it's great, but it's also really hard sometimes to have those deep and reflective thoughts. So what I was doing was I was thinking about any thought that I had that might have been in that realm of like reflective, or maybe something that I had never really thought about before, or really I just wanted to push towards the edge of my consciousness. I would write it down, and I had this strange list of things, and when I sat down to paint, I would try to pick one and conceptualize it into a theme that I wanted to get across, or kind of a general idea. And then I actually only spent about 5 to 10 hours on each painting. I wanted them to be quick studies here, and I wanted them to be, I really wanted to allow my hand and my brain to just make what I wanted to create based on my feelings and things like that, instead of trying to recreate something else. So I think that was the number one challenge and the number one lesson for me over the past 2 terms. So yeah, these are just some paintings that I did for this. You can see them all on the website. They're also named individually, which I took a lot of time to do, because I think that's important to know what I was feeling per se when I was thinking about these paintings, and thinking about what is in the corners of my consciousness, things like memories and identity and like love and heartbreak and kind of everything like that. So what I would do is I started making this one on the right here, not including the series, but hopefully will be included in the series after this. I hope to have like 100 of them. That would be ideal. But so I started making this one about how pictures are such a way that can bring memories to life. So you can see here that I was putting some of my favorite photos, favorite memories in the canvas area to get inspired and just to make me like think of certain feelings. So then what I did to get this effect is I printed them on water slide paper, and then I transferred them onto this metallic surface, this vinyl surface here, which is funny because you'll see on the right here that you actually have to, you put it in water, and then I had also sprayed it with acrylic spray, and that's what makes it be able to do this. When you put it in water, you can kind of remove the image from the paper and put it on something else, which to anyone who knows me knows that I hate wet paper. I hate it. Like, I'm terrified of it. So this was just really fun for me to have my hands in a bucket of wet paper for 4 months. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of everything about me. And yeah.
That's awesome, Dana. I did not know that fact about you, that you did not like wet paper, but that does sound like your own little hell that you created for yourself. But it turned out beautifully in the end. Like, all these are so lovely. And the one thing that I really like about you putting them on the reflective surface that I think makes the pieces like truly stand out is just this concept of like reflection of your own memory, reflection in your own mind. And there's a fluidity to it, right? Like, if you see these GIFs, whichever you want to call it, on the website, you can really see this beautiful, like, almost like the top of the ocean when it's, when it's super sunny out, that's glistening. That just, is so fluid, like thought, right? So the question that I wanted to pose to you was, how did you, because I had this own thought with my work going into it, because obviously my work deals with a lot of inward thinking as well. How did you find, because your past work deals with mental illness as well, so how did you find exploring this series either affected positively or negatively, or expanded your own experience with mental illness? If you feel comfortable talking about that. If you don't, that's totally fine too.
Yeah, I definitely do, and I love that question, because I honestly, I think I started learning more about myself than I've ever really known through these paintings. And these past 4 months, I think maybe it's a result of just more isolation, and maybe it's the paintings, maybe it's both, but I think definitely that I know who I am now more than ever before. And I truly think that doing these paintings and like trying to put these abstract thoughts that I'm feeling onto a page, like, has just really helped me understand them, and things like that. So, and also like with my past work being, like I said, about mental illness, but I think it was too obvious in a way. What I liked about this is that your consciousness, like every part of who you are, makes up who you are. So mental health is part of that, but it's not all of you. So there's just like so much to your consciousness that makes who you are, and I just think I started thinking about that a lot more. And yeah, so just like understanding it and accepting it, I think, is another really big thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's also destigmatizes it, right, for the audience. Like the more that we discuss mental illness and all that stuff, both within art but also on all platforms, it's such an important topic to discuss. So we'll just do one more question here from Kate. She asked, did you learn anything surprising through this process about yourself or about the materials? She's an amazing work, Dana.
Oh, thank you, Kate. I think I did. I think I mentioned the thought of acceptance, and I think the biggest thing was knowing that just because I've had these like thoughts maybe in the past or I have them now, like they don't stay with you forever. So it's okay to reflect on something, and like let's say like an old love or heartbreak or something that happened to you in the past, trauma, kind of things like that. Like it's okay to think about it and understand how it affected you, and like not be emotionally attached to it now, but just like understand that things in your life, it's a domino effect, and it will in turn like affect your whole life. And I think that's the biggest thing, is I was looking at past things and just realizing that it's a part of who I am, and I can take that as a good or a bad thing. So hopefully I choose to take it as a good thing and try to learn from experiences, and yeah, try to teach myself things and things like that. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Your work is definitely like about growth, right? Like and movement and changing, which is really, really wonderful.
Flux, as you
yeah, it's Flux, exactly. Yeah, bringing it all back, baby. All right. So just because we're running short on time, I think I'm gonna skip my artist talk because I don't want to run over. No, it's okay. I've been talking this whole time. Like I don't need to be talking more. So
I shouldn't have. No, I feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. I'm glad that we're running. Like I was worried that we were gonna have all this big gap at the end. So I'm glad that we're running.
Put a vote in the chat.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's totally fine.
Yes.
What we're gonna do is I think we're gonna move into the Curators Award, which is great.
Baz, I was gonna say, why don't you take a few minutes and talk a bit about your work, and I can hold off on that. That's fine.
I have your slideshow ready here, so we can just take a look for some amount of time if you're interested.
All right, but I will cut it. I'll be very quick with my artist talk. So, Dana, we just need you to stop sharing your screen here, and then.
I do need that, yeah.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll skip the Q&A for me, and if people have questions, they can ask them at the end. How about that? It's a good in between. Okay, so I'm Baz. I've been talking this entire time. I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning though, so that's probably a good, place to introduce myself. Just a really quick about me. I graduated high school over a decade ago. I'm a little older than many of the students in the class, and I attended Sheridan College for visual arts at first, and then I graduated with a diploma in advertising and graphic design. And I worked as a graphic designer for about 7 years or so in Montreal, and it was a wonderful experience, but I also learned I did not want to do graphic design, so I ended up going back to school to U of W to get my Bachelor of Fine Arts, which thankfully we're at the very end of now. So my work mainly has to do with the body, and my work has always had to do with the body. I've always only really wanted to draw people. That's all I've ever been interested in. Similar to what Dana was talking about though, for a really long time I never did my own work. Like I I did realism, right? Like I would copy what was already there. So throughout my time kind of here at U of W, I've really been able to explore and create my own ideas, just like Dana said, which has been so wonderful and so freeing. So this specific, or these pieces, I should say, that I have in the exhibition are called the Dysphoria series. And my work, or this series, I should say, is based in my experience of gender dysphoria as a non-binary person. So for those unfamiliar with the term, gender dysphoria is basically something that many trans and gender non-conforming people deal with, and it's that concept of where our mental image of ourselves doesn't quite match like what our body is. And it's pretty similar to the idea of body dysmorphia, which many people have, which is similar to like if you see yourself as thinner or fatter or more muscular, but it doesn't quite match the concept of what you're seeing in the mirror, right? So one of the things that I wanted to capture with these pieces was the feeling of fragmentation. And a huge inspiration for that was the painter John Wentz. I don't have a picture of his stuff in my slideshow. I probably should have introduced him in my slideshow, but you should definitely check him out. He's wonderful. And he is very good at fragmenting reality. And that was something that I wanted to capture in this series. And I did that through the use of contrast. So in these pieces, Shannon, if you wanted, you could just flip through them at any time. There's no, there's no specific timing. So yeah, you'll see contrasts like realism and abstraction, the digital versus the traditional, visible parts versus things that I didn't render. All those are forms of contrast. And of course, you can see contrast in colors and textures and that kind of thing as well. And contrast is also a really good metaphor for the gender binary itself, right? These two ends of the spectrum and what's in between. So doing these digitally also allowed me to explore glitch art, which I think was also a really important factor in these pieces, since my dysphoria, or the way I experience it, definitely feels a little bit like a glitch in the system, right? Like it's these two lines crossing, the message doesn't quite come through clearly. So adding in these glitches also adds that level of discomfort and like things aren't quite matching up. Do you know what I mean? So these are about 5 of 20 pieces or so that I've done from the beginning of this year to now. So I've only included a few of them, but in the future I would really like to explore projection with these pieces. Where the glitches or the bodies themselves are moving. That would be really, really fun, I think. And in general, just in the future, working with more queer and diverse bodies and bringing them into the contemporary art space, which I think is very important. So that's a little bit about my work. But like I said, we won't do a Q&A for me. If you guys have questions for me, you're welcome to ask them at the end as well. But I think we should just move right into the Curator's Award if possible. So,
can I ask one question?
Yes, you can ask one question, Dana.
I just love your work so much, and I want to know so much about it. It's so lovely.
Thank you.
If you're comfortable talking, I know you talked a little bit about how like glitches in the system, but could you just talk a little bit about how maybe making these paintings helped you understand your own identity and what you were going through and things like that, if you're comfortable. If not, obviously.
Yeah, very similar to the question that I asked you, not in a bad way. I just it is interesting how I didn't ask this question, but you'd covered it in your talk. Just this concept of sometimes working through these feelings that often obviously present themselves as negative. Sometimes working through them through art can be so therapeutic, right? Like everybody knows art can be such a therapeutic practice. So a lot of times when I'm working through these, I end up actually on the other side coming out feeling, so the opposite of dysphoria is euphoria, obviously. So yeah, I feel a lot more euphoric about the pieces of my body that when I first started, I was like, oh, that isn't mine. That doesn't match me, you know what I mean? So it's been really helpful in a lot of ways. But on the other end of the spectrum, there has been some like very painful moments as well, like working through these pieces. But for the most part, I would say it's been a very positive experience, being able to work through them physically, which is really nice. So I think yeah, like I said, if anybody has any other questions for me, totally fine. You can ask them, but we'll just save it for the end. Um, and oh, Kate has a quick question. I do use references. I don't work from memory. I don't know my back that well, unfortunately. um, but yeah, so yeah, Dana, or sorry, Shannon, if you want to oh my goodness. See, I'm already losing my words. I shouldn't have done the artist talk. So yeah, perfect. So what we'll do is we'll move into the Curators Award, which is going to be presented by Ivan. So Ivan, you can turn on your video and take it away.
Thank you so much, Baz. Can everyone hear me? Yes, I hope.
Yep, we can hear you.
For those who may not know me, I'm Ivan Jurakic, the University of Waterloo Art Gallery Director and Curator. And this year, for the second time, we are not actually hosting the undergraduate show in-house, which is a shame. But I'm so thrilled that this class has done so much work to put this up together in the virtual realm. And so congratulations to all the Flux artists. So since 2015, the University of Waterloo Art Gallery has been offering a Curator's Choice Award, which parallels a number of awards that the Fine Arts Department also offers to the students. I felt it was important to do a selection from the standpoint of the gallery, because I do think that the Arts Department and the fourth year students deserve to be credited for the work they do. And the idea that my engagement with them is also recognized in some respects. And the fact that students really do, over the years, have come to see this award as a kind of an important milestone for some of them, I think is an honor on my behalf, that I'm very happy that the gallery is able to offer this. This year clearly has been a trying period. And I wanted to basically acknowledge that and thank all of the students for the work that they've put in. Because of the circumstances, we were not able to do the regular studio visits, which is actually something that I really look forward to, and I think has always been one of the, I hope, value added aspects of what I bring to the table as the curator with the program. And in that regard, I'll also acknowledge that the Fine Art Department has set me up as a bit of a tough cookie. I play the Gordon Ramsay role at times, but I hope that has also been a useful element in terms of the camaraderie and the kind of dialogues and the critical aspects that come out of the fourth year class, and the work that is developed for the space in the gallery. Because this year's a different circumstance, we were not able to do studio visits. So instead, to make a sort of an equitable system, also an opt-in system in terms of the award, because people have different pressures. I haven't met everyone. I can't expect everyone to kind of want to put themselves forward in this way. We decided that this year the Curator's Award choice would be through a call for entry, essentially. So a number of students, 11 from the class, applied for the award this year. I was very impressed that under the circumstances that they were able to produce the caliber of work that they had. Really enjoyed having the opportunity to go over the work and to consult with Professor Lois Anderson in terms of the kind of works that people were doing and some of the discussions that they were having, because again, I don't have an insider's view of what's happening with the class, particularly this year, working remotely. So I was really drawn to a number of works. I was really kind of intrigued by the fact that there was a strong undercurrent of artists who were doing works that addressed the notion of being from different places, from diasporas, engaging with familial history and things like that. And that also, I think, determined my selection for the year, and also on a personal level made me sort of reminisce or think about the fact that I'm in fact a first generation Canadian myself. And that's something I don't think about that much, but I think the work that some of the students were doing did sort of draw those interests out in me, and I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to thank everyone who took the effort and took the time to apply. Without further ado, also in lieu of there being a minor change, we're going to do a runner-up as well as a Curator's Choice Award. So my selection for runner-up was Diana Tran. I was really drawn to a piece that she submitted called Carry What You Need, which was mixed media, wood, paint, and fabric. And the piece was, again, talking about her father's experience as a Vietnamese immigrant to Canada as a refugee during the refugee crisis, the boat crisis in the 70s, which I remember very well. And the piece is, I think, on Instagram and on the website, and uses a suitcase as a kind of a vessel that captures the emotional baggage of the trauma that her father would have experienced, as well as a series of figures and a kind of a reproduction of the boat. I thought this was a very strong piece. I was very drawn to it and the narrative. And so I wanted to have Diana acknowledged as the runner-up for, thank you for putting that up, the runner-up for this year's Curator's Choice Award. So congratulations, Diana, and thank you for sharing this with me. And on that note, I think I will just go forward and announce that the I'd like to award the 2021 Curator's Choice Award to Lupita Guerrero, who, in terms of narrative, is again working with family narratives that deal with her parents, immigration, class, and the notion of translation from one language to another, which again was meaningful to me because this was something that I responded to in the sense that I realized when I was younger, even though I was born in Canada, that this idea of translation was sort of key to my own childhood. And I thought the way she was dealing with text and images of her parents as workers were very meaningful. And again, in particular, the piece that's on display now, Far From Finished, where there is actually a kind of a physical translation of the work in terms of its meaning, but also in terms of the way it is made as a kind of a material, a sort of an embroidery, was very powerful and appealed to me. And also the fact that Lupita had taken the time to set this up as an installation with the shadows. So visually, I could really see how this might have worked in the gallery and how this work will one day be displayed in a gallery, and I think will be important, and that I can see that this body of work is something that she could really continue with. I'll say further to that I had the pleasure of working with Lupita for several years at the University of Waterloo Art Gallery. She was one of our gallery attendants. So the pleasure for me was doubled here because I actually didn't really know what Lupita's artwork was like. So not seeing her for a year and having the opportunity to see her work and see how strong it is and how it has become over a very difficult period was very, very kind of moving and kind of inspired me. So congratulations, Lupita Guerrero is this year's Curator's Choice Award winner, and also congratulations to Diana Tran as the runner-up. And thank you again, all of you, so much for the time, the effort, the commitment, the determination, and the care that you've taken in presenting your works and for putting Flux together this year. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ivan, and congratulations, Lupita and Diana. You guys are both incredibly deserving. I remember I first saw Lupita's work I think 2 years ago in a 308 painting class, and again, like similarly to Shannon's work and a lot of other people's work who deal with family, it's so wonderful to have this, like, to have somebody be so open and willing to share this intimate part of their lives with us, and it truly does come through in both of their works. And yeah, both of their works are wonderful. They're up on the website, so you can check them out. And yeah, again, if you have questions or comments, we're going to move into a Q&A period very, very soon. And thank you again, Ivan, for presenting that. And I think what we're going to do next, actually, is a little toast, which will bring us right towards the end of our 2-hour opening here. So we're going to do a little bit of a toast, and then after that, we're going to just have an open Q&A period for a little bit, probably about 15 or 20 minutes. So if people want to prepare some questions for any artist that was featured in the exhibition, you can feel welcome to do that. And Diana, do you want to give us a little toast here to send us off?
By Diana, do you mean Dana? Or am I not giving it?
I'm so sorry. Did I say Diana? It's because Diana's on my brain. She's a winner in our mind, right? My apologies. Yeah. Dana, yes, please.
That's totally good. I was like, wait, what? Yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what this year has meant to us in our class. So if you want to grab a drink of whatever your choice, of water even, whatever, yeah, that's... So thank you, Baz, for the warm introduction, and thank you to all of my wonderful classmates who worked so hard to make this exhibition happen. To begin, I have 3 words for you. East Campus Hall. For those of you that have never been there, or maybe don't even know what it is, that is our little slice of campus. We may not have light-up signs or even good water fountains, and most people I know at the University of Waterloo don't even know that this exists. However, for a long time for us, this building was home, and a place that we have all been really missing this past year. Even though its concrete walls can be overlooked, and it really was on the edge of campus, so much so that in our later years, being late to class because you were stopped by the train was common. It was what happened on the inside of those concrete walls that mattered. Every day when you walked to class, you would walk through walls covered with artwork. To see what your classmates were working on all the time was such a gift. Although I do admit, in my lower years, I did not want my work to be on the walls because I did not want anyone to see what I did. And I'm still kind of like that. But what this program has really taught me, and I think a lot of my classmates, is that our ideas are not only valid, but they are worth sharing. When I first took a tour of East Campus Hall 5 years ago, I remember falling in love immediately with the studio spaces. And I now know that those studio spaces allow for beautiful collaboration, as well as hours spent by yourself when you're deep into a work. That was my favorite part about long days in the studio, is having other artists and other profs come in, and you could always get a fresh opinion and narration and things like that if you had wanted. There was such a sense of solidarity, especially if we were running into each other in the late hours of the night. I don't know about anyone else, but I definitely had to have McDonald's breakfast delivered to East Campus Hall at 5 a.m. too many times to count. So when I think about long days in the studio, they're tiring, but I think about how lucky I am to get to create for hours on end, and how happy I am that I chose this path in life. When young people want to go into the arts, they can sometimes be met with some pushback. For example, we've all heard phrases like "friends don't let friends go to art school." So for that reason, I'm especially grateful for the people that encouraged me and my classmates to be true to who we were and pursue anything we wanted to. If any of the lovely people here today are any of the people that encouraged drawing outside of the lines, or was someone that me or my classmates could run to and find comfort in if someone told us that our dreams weren't worth pursuing, to anyone that has nurtured our creativity throughout the years, we would not be here without you. Lastly, to my wonderful classmates who have shown nothing but resilience this year, I will be forever inspired by you and so happy that I got a chance to work with you. We chose Flux as an exhibition theme because of the way we had to adapt and change and create. Creating in the space that you actually live in definitely has its ups and downs. And the constant fear that our pets would walk into paint or glue or something and then track it all over the house was definitely alive and well. However, I also think Flux is perfect for this group because of the way that we have all pushed our boundaries and our comfort zones with these people, or these pieces. I was astounded by how many people were exhibiting something that they had never done before. The bravery and the courage that it takes to do that, I was really blown away. I'm so proud of everyone for pushing their limits creatively, because it has resulted in such beautiful work by everyone. Seeing how people's practices have evolved over the last 4 years, 5 years, is one of the most rewarding parts of being in this program. And I'm so grateful that we all got to tag along on each other's journeys. I have learned so many things from this group of artists who have always shown kindness and support to one another. What can I say when you're learning how to weld together and you're all standing there with the flames going everywhere and you're looking around the room like, who's going to go first, because it won't be me? That will definitely bond you. As we move on to the next chapter of our life, there are so many things I'm thankful for that happened in those concrete walls of East Campus Hall. Mostly thankful for the couches in the sofa lounge and how close our building was to the food plaza. But especially thankful to the people we met there. East Campus Hall was filled with lovely humans, and for the rest of my life, I'll remember the love that filled those walls. From the profs to the students, the support staff, everyone there really wanted you to succeed. So let's cheers to finding ourselves as an artist, learning to accept change, and allowing ourselves the space to flux.
Amazing. Oh my goodness, Dana, that was so wonderful, so heartfelt. And I'm sure everybody is raising their glass. Yeah, everybody's reacting at least, so that's a good thing. Yeah, that was so lovely. Summed up our time there, I think, so wonderfully as well. And yeah, I do miss ECH a lot. I remember a few times having to tell people, oh, it's this little tiny building next to this beautiful, shining engineering building that's just, you know, the peak of new modern technology. But there was so much love in that little building, and like seeing everybody's work on the walls, and yeah, it was always such an inspiration to walk into. So lovely toast. Thank you so much, Dana. So the final thing that we're going to move into, and I know we're at time now, which is totally fine. So if people want to stop watching, that's totally okay. But I'll ask, hopefully, our artists to stay on for the next hopefully like 15 or 20 minutes, just in case anybody has any questions for them. But if nobody ends up having questions, we can shut it down. But I'm just going to quickly check the YouTube chat to see if there's any questions. But of course, if anybody on the Zoom call has questions for one another, you can unmute yourself or you can ask them in the chat. Because yeah, you're obviously welcome to ask questions of one another and put each other on the spot just for fun. So yeah, if anybody has any questions now, you can do that. Let me just quickly check. I know we did have a few back when there were some artist talks, but let's see here. And I know, I was just going to say as well, I know that Shannon was thinking about doing like a little after party kind of thing as well. So anybody on the call, on the Zoom, if they wanted to participate in that, I think she was going to try and set something up. But not just the people on Zoom are welcome to that. I think she's opening it up to anybody who wants to join. So anybody watching as well. So give me 1 second. I'm trying to see if I can find any other questions that weren't answered.
I think I have a question just for kind of all of us.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to speak to kind of what they learned this year, or maybe over the last 4 years, and just kind of the experience as a whole, especially having to make the shift from a studio space to a virtual space and things like that? Yeah. Open the floor up if anyone wants to.
I think everybody's like already tired from 2 hours, I guess, of doing this. But yeah, I'll speak to my experience anyway. I know that at first the switch to like doing digital, or at least not doing digital, but like just working from home was pretty daunting. And especially, I think it's not even just the concept of changing your everyday routine, but it's also the concept of you're going through this pandemic, you know what I mean? Something terrible is happening, right? So it's not only are you changing your everyday life from an artistic point of view, but you're changing everyday life in general. So, yeah, it was a big change, but I think I've actually come out of it a better artist for it, because it allows you to adapt, you know what I mean? Because in general, art, you can get into your comfort zone, right? Like we were talking about in our artist talks, where for so long, we would just do what was there, right? Like we would draw what we saw, which is a comfort zone thing. So it was so nice to really push yourself, ourselves, I should say, and like try new materials, work maybe at a different size than we're used to, that kind of thing. So yeah, just a lot of changes, but good changes, I think, overall. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, well, if there are questions that I forgot, I apologize. But you're welcome to ask them again in either the Zoom chat or the YouTube chat. We'll just open it. We'll keep it open for another couple minutes, and if nobody answers or asks anything, we'll just move on. I need to talk to Shannon about getting her a login for the Zoom as well. So if we want to do that little after party, does anybody else?
Our after party is DJ'd by a friend of mine who's based out of Vancouver right now, Noemi, and it's going to be, I wanted to recreate that feeling of, in the gallery when we all filter out at our own pace. So, yeah, you can join for 5 minutes or stay on until the night ends. Just, well, we might have some technical difficulties getting the link, but it will pop up in the YouTube, hopefully just right after this is finished.
Yeah, if anybody else on the call has any other questions, again, for each other, if you have questions about the artwork that people put in, that'd be awesome. But otherwise, I'm going to try and track down this information.
I'd just like to say a quick thing at the end, if that's possible.
Absolutely, go for it.
Well, I just want to thank Tara, because we don't really overlap, but she set up the fall so well, and then, yeah, it was really great being able to continue the dialogue, and, we both care so much about the students, so, and I know that won't stop, and, yeah, just want to thank her for all the work she did in the fall term, and, for giving me access to everything that she had, so thank you, Tara.
You're welcome, Lois. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry.
You guys made a good team. Look what you did. You made a good team.
No, you guys are so great. Well done.
Aww.
Well,
wonderful.
When I was in teachers college, I took this amazing course. I think her name was, it was a while ago, it was the 90s. So, but I think her name was Rena. And she told this story about how she taught elementary school, and at one point the students, like, they had done this big theatrical production, and they did, they were performing, and they did the set design, and they did everything, and it was like, elementary school, grade 5 or something. Anyway, she wrote a book about it, and she talked in the book about how at the opening, one of the students who was like, in grade 5, said, "Oh my gosh, Mrs. So-and-so, I can't believe that they were like, it's so nice that you came." Because they took over the thing so much that they didn't even realize that, she kind of facilitated this or set it up. And she talked about how that was the true kind of pedagogical moment, that when the students kind of take over and run the show, that's the best. So
for sure. Yeah, it's been so fun, like, putting everything together, and it I think it actually teaches us a lot of stuff going into, or not even going into, like, the this pandemic kind of world, but also just going into the world that's a fairly digital world now. It's taught us a lot about how to put together an exhibition from a completely different from a different lens, a different point of view, right? Like, now we have a better idea of how to run something online, which is also a part of the future. So it's been just as beneficial, I think. But yeah, so I think we don't have any questions that I can see. Again, unless I'm missing them, I apologize if I am. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut down the live and
before we end.
Yeah. Oh, you got little flowers. That's so sweet.
My mom wanted to say these are for everybody.
Oh, those are wonderful.
Towards this.
That's so beautiful. Thank you, Shannon's mom.
Enjoy, everybody.
Bouquet for all of us. I love that. I just wanted to also thank everybody who joined us on the live and asked questions and participated and said such lovely things about everybody's work. And another congratulations to Diana and Lupita, both of you incredibly deserving, wonderful works. And just also make sure if you want, you can check out the actual works on the website, which is again uwflux.com. And you can see everybody's work. You can ask if prints are for sale, anything you'd like. Oh, sorry, the phone is ringing. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And we will see each other. We will see each other very soon. Very soon.
Thank you, Baz, for all of your emceeing.
No problem.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful evening.
It was a pleasure, truly. So Shannon, I will get you that information, and thank you guys for joining, and I'm gonna shut down the live now. So thank you everybody.
Have a lovely night, everyone.